Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this really important and exciting meeting. I don't think in the world of Duchenne muscular dystrophy the word lucky really fits, but I think we can say we're lucky to be here today. The world has progressed from certainly when my sons were diagnosed with Duchenne, when we couldn't have ever thought about such a meeting. And so we're here today with our agency partners, with our industry partners, with our families, with our sons. It's really kind of an amazing day and really will be a hard day for all of us as we listen to the journey of Duchenne and we hear things that we've had experienced in our own lives, that we might experience in our lives. And so that part is going to be hard as we relive the experience. But the good news is we're here because the voice of the patient, the stories, the experiences are being really listened to by the FDA and federal agencies to understand the lived experience of Duchenne. And that's really critically important when you're evaluating whether a drug should be approved or not, so that you can understand the meaningful benefit and how that ripples through the lives of our families. So, as part of FDA's commitments under the Prescription Drug User Fee Act, or PDUFA 5, FDA has taken these steps to really inform the assessment of benefit risk in CDER's regulatory decisions concerning new drugs. The Patient-Focused Drug Development, or PFDD initiative, is part of FDA's commitment under the fifth authorization of PDUFA 5 and part of the 2012 FDA Safety and Innovation Act. So FDA wants to systematically understand the burden of disease. The PFDD initiative's stated aim was to more systematically obtain a patient perspective on specific diseases and their treatments. To date, there have been a number of patient voice meetings such as this, and we're, I think, number 40 in that lineup to listen. PFDD meetings give the FDA an important opportunity to hear directly from patients and family members and patient advocates and their caretakers about the symptoms that matter most to them, the impact the disease has had on their daily lives, and the patient's experiences with currently available treatments. The guidance for Duchenne muscular dystrophy was finalized just a few weeks ago, and we're really grateful to the FDA for finalizing that guidance. There are 5 patient preference studies going on, 1 in gene therapy and 4 others. 1 is international and 3 others are going on. So these preference studies are critically important to understand what good do you want to see out of a drug or a biologic or a gene therapy, and what risks and uncertainties are you willing to take on. Our drug development roundtable effort now includes more than 46 companies, and we're lucky for that. We have 2 approvals, Exondys 51 and Emflaza, and a robust pipeline, including the initiation of gene therapy studies. So we really feel like we're in a new day in Duchenne. We, PPMD, wanted to build on that foundational format of the initial PFDD workshops by adding additional stakeholders to a day-long discussion, allowing for an in-depth analysis and assessment of barriers, of the needs and opportunities of the Duchenne community in 2018, and the development of a navigational action guide for the Duchenne community going forward. Today's going to be hard, but it's going to be good. It's going to be exciting, it's going to be difficult, but at the end of the day, we will come away better than we are as we sit this morning. We now want to ensure that we bring our patient community's voice, perspective, and current experience of Duchenne into this center of conversation. This is the purpose of this patient-focused drug development meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Annie Kennedy.
All right, good morning. Thank you everyone for being here. Okay, I'm just going to go through an overview of the day and how the day is organized. So you have agendas in your packets if you received a packet when you came in. And we've organized the day into 4 panels. Each panel focuses on a distinct perspective across our Duchenne journey. So the 4 panels are the early journey and elementary years in Duchenne, the tween and teen years, Duchenne Becker through the adult lens, and the experience of the family unit. Each panel discussion includes panelists who will introduce our discussion by sharing personal reflections on their family's experience of Duchenne and the issues that are most poignant for their child and their family at this particular time in the journey. The panelists represent 20 members of our community from all over the nation. They include parents whose children with Duchenne range in age from 3 3/4 years old through 24 years old, and adults living with Duchenne and Becker. They've worked very hard to prepare for today, and through their poignant and very honest testimony are laying a very strong foundation that we as a community will be able to build upon through our discussion today. We're so grateful to each of our panelists and to your families for being willing to share your personal journeys with us here today. Following our panelists' testimony, we'll spend a few minutes surveying the community in order to elicit our broad community's voices. So just a few words about terminology. Today, we'll be referring to the term Duchenne, but we've had a lot of conversations in the last few days about Duchenne being a spectrum of disease, and we're really referring to our dystrophinopathy community when we refer to Duchenne, and we're representing our combined voices as a Duchenne and Becker community and as manifesting carriers of Duchenne, and we'll do some polling around that in just a few minutes to really identify who's participating in this meeting today. So just a few comments about the surveying. Surveying will be done in real time. So those who are in the room will be able to vote from your phones, and those participating in today's meeting through the web stream will be able to vote online. All of the responses will be seen here in the room and will be included in our meeting report. Following today's meeting, all of the discussions and all of that polling information will be captured in a report that PPMD will be working to publish along with our community advisory board partners and pushing out and sharing with our policy partners, with our congressional partners, and with related stakeholders to together map out our path forward. While we welcome all who are connected to our community to be here with us today and to be participating in the live stream, we ask that only individuals with Duchenne and Becker and their parents or caregivers participate in the polling throughout the day. And in just a few minutes, Ryan will provide more detailed instructions about how to participate in the polling. After the testimony and polling are completed and we've set the foundation for the specific topic area within each panel, we're then going to move into the discussion. At that point, we're going to facilitate a discussion among the panelists and among those in the room. For the open discussion, please raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak and respond to the discussion question so that one of our floor moderators can bring a microphone to you. And those will include Ryan and then Amanda, who will be on one side of the room. Before you begin speaking, we ask that you state your name and your child's age or your age if you're a member of our adult or teen community. If you're a parent, you don't have to tell us your age. We also want to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to participate in today's discussion, so we do ask that comments be succinct and you think about them before you make them. For the three panels that are focused on specific time periods in our Duchenne journey, we ask that the discussion refer to experiences during that time frame only during that panel. So for example, please ensure that the frame of reference, for example, is being shared during panel 1, which is early journey, elementary years, 10 and under, all refer to when your child was under the age of 10. So the other thing is that, well, we're sorry that while those on the webcast cannot participate in the discussion throughout the panels while you're watching today, we will be sharing a link to the discussion questions with all those who are registered for today's webcast and invite those participating to submit written responses to us within 30 days, and all of those responses will be captured and reflected in the meeting summary report. Okay, so this is really important. Let's remember that today's meeting is being streamed and that what happens in DC does not stay in DC today. We also ask that you remember that the views shared today are personal perspectives and opinions, and that we ask that as a community we handle each other with care and be respectful of one another's perspectives and experiences. And then we want a very special thank you to our federal partners, our industry partners, and our other related stakeholders who come together with us today. As a community, a lot of us weathered a lot of weather to get here, but for our federal partners, their homes and their neighborhoods have weathered a lot also in the past few days, and they've all returned to work today and came here to be with us. And so I'm just going to read through a list of the federal partners who immediately responded yes to our invitation to be here with today. Today, we have the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Medicare Services, the National Institutes of Health, and we have 4 institutes of the National Institutes of Health represented, the Centers for Disease Control, Department of Labor. We have a number of public and private payers, either in the room or watching, and we have more than 20 Duchenne industry partners represented today. So we thank all of you for being here with us today. So with that, I'd like to ask our first panel to come on up. Oh, and while the first panel come on up, and Ryan's going to do the polling, but let's have the first panel come on up. And then Ryan Fisher has spent a lot of time working on the polling questions. And again, what we've done is we've taken the formula that FDA created and that a lot of our sister organizations have done previously, adapted that and modified that and broadened that. We've also taken recent discussion documents and guidances that FDA put out and updated some of those questions that you'll see throughout the panels today and in the polling and incorporated that into today's meeting. And we're really hoping that this is informative for our community as we move forward. So Ryan.
Great. Okay. So thank you. As Annie indicated, I'll be conducting polling throughout the day. For those of you in the room, just a reminder that there is a Wi-Fi code. You can get on through the Wi-Fi Mayflower Conference, and the code is PPMD 2018. So this will enable you to do the polling throughout the day. And there'll also be an option for those who need to text your responses. And you'll see instructions on that on the actual screen as we go through. For those of you who are joining us today on the web, we're grateful to have you join us virtually, but we ask that only U.S. families participate in the actual polling, okay? And you'll see instructions on the web through a link on how you participate in the polling throughout the day. And we're excited to have a full range of stakeholders represented both here and virtually, but for the purposes of the polling, we're only asking those diagnosed with Duchenne or Becker and/or parent, guardians, or relatives of someone with Duchenne or Becker to participate in the polling, okay? So for the parents, guardians, or relatives, we only want 1 response per family. So that means 1 parent per couple, and if you brought a family member with you, there should be only 1 response per family. Everyone got that? Clear as mud? So that means that the only way you'll have 2 answers submitted from a family is if the person with Duchenne or Becker is participating along with their family member with the polling. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so finally, for those responding on behalf of their loved one, if you have more than 1 child diagnosed with Duchenne or Becker, we ask that you think of your oldest child when answering these questions through the polling, okay? So, with that, let's get into the first set of demographic or about you questions. Later in the program, we'll have some polls specific to age groups, as Annie mentioned. Those will coincide with different panels, and we will indicate to you when you should answer or should not answer, okay? So, start with a warm-up question. Okay, so this will not be analyzed for future use. We may serve the winner at lunch later on, but I'm only kidding. So you'll see on your screen answers, choices A, B, C, or D. We ask you to choose your response for what your favorite type of cookie is, and we'll give a minute for these responses to roll in. Chocolate chip seems to be winning. We're going to give a chance for those online as well. Huh? You can if you have your phone with you. Yeah. Okay. So we have a clear winner at this point. Chocolate chip won the day. Sure, so some online maybe. So we're going to move on to the next question. And the next question we're looking at is getting into more of the demographics. We're looking at which state do you live in, and you may not actually, you can actually click on your state. We'll have the data after the fact. It's not going to calculate on here, but this was the easiest way for folks to answer where they're from. And this is important for us for when we do the analysis and the reporting. So I'm going to actually look to my friends over there to move on to the next question when they see enough responses coming in. Okay. We go to the next one? Okay, great. So the next question is we want to know which of these describes you. Individual with Duchenne or Becker, parent or guardian, or a family member, grandparent, or other relative. So large majority of responses are parent or guardian, represented here and online. Next is a family member. And after that, an individual with Duchenne or Becker. But I want to give it a minute as these responses come in. Still seem to be trickling in. Okay, so we see the vast majority being a parent or guardian representing someone with Duchenne or Becker for this poll. Okay, can we have the next question, please? Next question is, what is your diagnosis? So you see the choices A, B, and C. Duchenne, Becker, or for the last choice, female with Duchenne or Becker. The large majority here being male with Becker as the diagnosis as this comes in. If anyone is having any issues with the polling, we have folks here in the room, so you'll be able to track them down. Hopefully everyone's getting through with the Wi-Fi. Okay, so we can move on to the next question. Okay. So we want to know the age of the person affected. We see a wide range of responses here, which is good. You should be answering for your oldest. Yes. Okay. We see a nice range of ages represented today through this poll. And this is important for when we analyze the data later on, where we'll stratify by certain factors, including age. See, the answers are still coming through. Okay. I think we can move on to the next question. Okay. Next, we're interested in how the person with Duchenne or Becker gets around. And we have 4 options here. I can read them. My child's an infant or toddler and has not yet taken his or her first steps. Can usually or always walk without help or mobility device. Can get around on own, but sometimes need help from a mobility device. And then finally uses wheelchair or other mobility device and rarely or never walks. So we're seeing so far, as the answers trickle in, use of wheelchair or other mobility device and rarely or never walks is the highest percentage, followed by get around on own but sometimes needs help from a mobility device, and then can usually or always walk without help or mobility device. Okay. Can we get the next question? For this question, we want to know about your experience with participating in Duchenne or Becker research clinical studies. You can choose all that apply to you here. Natural history study, clinical trial for an investigative drug, trial with robotics, a gene or therapy trial, an MRI, imaging study, or have never participated. So we see the largest majority here indicating natural history studies, which we're very grateful for all the participation in those natural history studies. They're so critical to drug development. We have a large percentage there who have participated in a clinical trial for an investigational therapy or a drug, and followed by the MRI imaging study. So I'm actually very happy to see that many are participating in that study. So, okay. So this concludes our set of background polling questions, the About You questions.